Today's case took place in Mapo District, located in the western part of Seoul, South Korea. In the Changcheon-dong area of this district, there is a high-end apartment complex called Kim Ho. Each building in this complex is equipped with advanced security systems to ensure the safety of its residents. With convenient transportation and well-developed infrastructure, this area has become a long-term residence choice for many middle-class families. The main character in this story is Kim Yeon-suk, a 45-year-old woman living in apartment 701 of Building 103 in the Kim Ho complex. She was the owner of a restaurant, separated from her husband, and raising her 3 daughters on her own. Her eldest daughter was 20 years old and attending college, her second daughter was 19 and in high school, and her youngest daughter was 13 and in middle school. One day in February 2008, Kim Yeon-suk and her 3 daughters suddenly disappeared. This mysterious event turned out to be closely related to a famous baseball star. What happened to this family? Join us on Crime Documentary Files as we uncover the details of this mysterious case. On February 26, 2008, Mapo District Police received a report of a missing person. The man who called stated that his sister, Kim Yeon-suk, along with her 3 daughters, had gone missing. He explained that 6 days earlier, on the morning of February 20th, he had been unable to reach his sister. At first, he didn't think much of it, assuming she was too busy to answer her phone. However, by February 24th, after 4 days of no contact, he started to worry. On February 26th, he decided to visit her apartment to check on her. Despite knocking on the door repeatedly, there was no response. This prompted him to call the police. After receiving the report, the police immediately dispatched officers to the missing person's residence at the Kim Ho apartment complex in Mapo District. Upon arrival, the officers obtained a spare key from the building manager and proceeded to the 7th floor to unlock apartment 701. After searching the apartment, they found no one inside. The entire place was neat and orderly, with no signs of a struggle or forced entry. The only notable details were a computer left on in the master bedroom and a broken lamp in the living room. Nothing else seemed out of the ordinary. Given these observations, the police concluded that the family might have gone on a short trip and advised the reporting party not to worry too much. Reluctantly, Kim Yeon-suk's brother returned home to wait for further news. 6 more days passed, and Kim Yeon-suk's brother contacted the police again, saying, "I still haven't heard anything from my sister." He pointed out that his 3 nieces were all students and couldn't have been away from home for this long without returning. He had even visited their schools, where teachers and friends confirmed that they hadn't seen them for several days. He began to suspect that something terrible had happened to his sister and her family, urging the police to start a thorough investigation. In response to this new report, the police returned to Kim Yeon-suk's apartment to conduct a more detailed examination. This time, they meticulously inspected every corner of the home. During their search, they discovered large ink stains on the mattress in the master bedroom. Upon closer inspection, they found traces of blood mixed within the stains. This discovery immediately raised alarms with the police, leading them to suspect that a serious crime might have occurred in apartment 701. They also found small amounts of blood in the floor crevices of the bedroom and in the bathroom sink. DNA tests revealed that the blood belonged to Kim Yeon-suk, her second daughter, and her youngest daughter. Kim Yeon-suk's brother had not been able to contact her since the morning of February 20th, so the police reviewed the security camera footage from the apartment complex for the week before and after that date. The footage showed that between 5 and 6 p.m. on February 17th, Kim Yeon-suk's second and youngest daughters returned home, and after that, they were not seen leaving the building. The next day, February 18th, around noon, Kim Yeon-suk was seen returning home alone. However, her eldest daughter was not seen returning home. Around 9 p.m. on February 18th, a man dressed in black and wearing a baseball cap was seen multiple times entering and exiting the apartment building's elevator. He was using a handcart to transport several black suitcases. Due to the dim lighting in the elevator and the man's hat, the police were unable to clearly see his face. The police questioned the residents living on the 7th floor, but no one recognized the man in black, and no one had seen him before. Since the eldest daughter did not return home on February 18th, the police checked her phone call history. The record showed that she had called her mother once between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. that day, and then called her again at midnight. According to her classmates, the eldest daughter received a call at midnight on February 18th, after which she hurriedly left school without telling anyone where she was going. The police suspected that the final call the eldest daughter received could have been made by the perpetrator using her mother's phone to lure her away from school. It was possible that all 4 members of the family had met with foul play. The man in black captured on the security camera was now a primary suspect in the case. To identify this man, the police began investigating Kim Yeon-suk's background and relationships. The victim, Kim Yeon-suk, was born in Eunpyeong District, Seoul. She was 45 years old, the second child in her family, with an older brother. She was married and had 3 daughters, but due to marital issues, she had been separated from her husband for a long time, and her 3 daughters were living with her. Kim Yeon-suk owned a restaurant in the Haewa-dong area, and her business was doing quite well. The police then visited Kim Yeon-suk's restaurant to gather more information. An employee mentioned that the owner was kind-hearted and treated her staff like family. Her 3 daughters were well-behaved and devoted, and they often came to the restaurant to help their mother. Everyone was deeply concerned when they went missing for several days. At 10 a.m. on February 18th, the owner, Kim Yeon-suk, left the restaurant early, instructing her staff to manage the business, and mentioned that she would be taking her 3 daughters on a short trip. The next day, at 4 p.m., she sent a message to the restaurant's work group, saying that she would be staying out for a few more days. The police quickly noticed something unusual. According to the restaurant staff, Kim Yeon-suk sent the message to the group at 4 p.m. on February 19th. However, based on the surveillance footage from the apartment complex, it was highly likely that she and her 3 daughters had already encountered trouble on the evening of February 18th. Therefore, the police had reason to believe that after committing the crime, the perpetrator used Kim Yeon-suk's phone to impersonate her and send messages to the group, intending to make everyone think that she and her daughters were still alive. The police continued questioning the employees, asking if their boss had been close to anyone recently. However, the staff mentioned that they didn't know much about her personal life, and she had never brought any friends to the restaurant, so they were unaware of any such relationships. Later, Kim Yeon-suk's brother provided the police with a valuable lead. He revealed that his sister had been dating a man who happened to be the famous baseball star Lee Ho-seong. The relationship between the two was strong, and the nieces had also accepted their mother's boyfriend. They even affectionately called Lee Ho-seong uncle and mentioned that he was planning to marry their mother. Through further investigation, it was discovered that Lee Ho-seong was born in Suncheon, South Jeolla Province, and was 41 years old. He was the eldest child in his family, with 1 younger brother. During his childhood, he moved with his parents to Gwangju. When Lee Ho-seong was in the 4th grade, his gym teacher noticed his talent, which marked the beginning of his baseball career. In January 1990, at the age of 23, Lee Ho-seong officially debuted as a baseball player for the Haetai Tigers. His addition to the team significantly boosted their strength. In his first 2 years, the team consecutively won the Gold Glove Award in the KBO League. He also helped the team clinch the championship in the league. During the 10 years that Lee Ho-seong played for the Haetai Tigers, the team became one of South Korea's top baseball teams. He also gained countless fans. By the age of 32, Lee Ho-seong had become the captain of the Haetai Tigers. At 34, he was appointed president of the Professional Baseball Players Association, further elevating his status in the baseball world. Additionally, Lee Ho-seong was married and had a son. Their family life was very happy. After gathering basic information about Lee Ho-seong, the police approached his friends and showed them the surveillance footage from the apartment complex. Based on the way the man in black walked, his friends identified him as Lee Ho-seong. Moreover, a resident of the complex reported seeing Lee Ho-seong driving a white car into the underground parking lot around 4 to 5 p.m. on February 18th. What puzzled the police was that Lee Ho-seong, a famous and admired baseball star, had a romantic relationship with a married woman like Kim Yeon-suk. However, upon further investigation, the police discovered that the once celebrated baseball star Lee Ho-seong was now living in financial distress. In 2002, at the age of 35, Lee Ho-seong decided to retire. He then ventured into the wedding service industry and opened a wedding hall called Ho-seong Wedding Center. After going bankrupt, Lee Ho-seong suffered severe psychological trauma. He left Gwangju on his own and lost contact with his friends in the baseball community. Even his wife was unable to reach him. Lee Ho-seong wandered to Seoul, leading a drifting life. During this time, he met Kim Yeon-suk, a woman 4 years older than him. Because they both had experienced ups and downs in life, they quickly bonded and eventually developed feelings for each other. Kim Yeon-suk ran a successful restaurant business, while Lee Ho-seong was living in poverty and was unemployed. So, did he borrow money from Kim Yeon-suk, only to find himself unable to repay the debt, leading to conflict and ultimately negative actions? With this suspicion in mind, the police investigated Kim Yeon-suk's bank accounts and discovered that on February 15th, she had withdrawn her entire savings of 170 million won from the bank. She then deposited the money into 5 different banks. Surveillance footage from the bank lobby captured Kim Yeon-suk withdrawing the money. The video shows her carrying a handbag in her left hand and pulling a suitcase with her right hand. After leaving the bank, she got into the passenger seat of a white car. When the police zoomed in on the surveillance footage, they identified the driver as Lee Ho-seong, and the white car was owned by Kim Yeon-suk. 3 days later, Kim Yeon-suk withdrew the 170 million won from those 5 banks. After that, the money disappeared without a trace. The police suspect that all of this money ultimately ended up in Lee Ho-seong's hands. At this point, the police identified Lee Ho-seong as the prime suspect in the case. To prevent him from fleeing the country, they stationed officers at airports, ports, and major transportation hubs. A person familiar with Lee Ho-seong revealed to the police that he was romantically involved with a woman named Cha, and the two often attended horse races together. After the incident, Lee Ho-seong was reportedly almost always with Ms. Cha. Just as the police were preparing to track down Ms. Cha, SBS, a television station, somehow obtained information about the case, identifying the former baseball star Lee Ho-seong as the main suspect. This was a highly compelling story, so they quickly produced an exclusive news segment directly naming Lee Ho-seong as the suspect. However, at this time, the police were conducting their investigation in secrecy to avoid alerting the suspect. When they learned that SBS was about to broadcast this information, they immediately contacted the station and requested that the airing be delayed. But SBS refused the police's request and aired the news on March 9th. After the program aired, it garnered widespread public attention. In a short time, the murder case involving the baseball star became a hot topic everywhere. Other media outlets also began to cover the story extensively. The day after the program aired, the police transitioned the investigation from a secret probe to a public one. They also issued a nationwide warrant for the arrest of suspect Lee Ho-seong, offering a reward of 3 million won, equivalent to over $2,000, for information leading to his whereabouts. On the same day the arrest warrant was issued, someone reported to the police that they had discovered a body under Hanam Bridge. Upon receiving the report, the police immediately went to the scene. The victim was dressed in a black suit with tightly clenched fists, and although there were no obvious injuries, the face was noticeably distorted. The police then transported the body to Suncheonhyang University Hospital. The forensic team identified the victim by comparing fingerprints, confirming that the deceased was none other than Lee Ho-seong, the suspect wanted by the police. The cause of death was determined to be drowning, and the time of death was estimated to be between March 9th and March 10th. In his jacket pocket, the police found a public phone card, a phone battery, and a face mask. In an interview with the press, the police expressed regret. If we had conducted our investigation a little faster, or if SBS had delayed their broadcast a bit, perhaps we could have apprehended Lee Ho-seong while he was still alive. After the program aired, many people criticized SBS as being an irresponsible media outlet for ignoring the police's request and prioritizing their own gains. Perhaps after watching the news, Lee Ho-seong became mentally distressed and decided to end everything in this way. In a short period, public opinion turned against SBS, making them the focus of widespread criticism. However, in response to the public outcry, SBS remained silent and did not issue any statements or apologies. Meanwhile, the police investigation continued. They located Ms. Cha, Lee Ho-seong's girlfriend. She revealed that she had met Lee Ho-seong a year prior, and after dating for 4 months, they began living together. Their relationship was going well, and they often attended horse races together. Surprisingly, Ms. Cha was completely unaware of Kim Yeon-suk's existence. She stated that she wasn't concerned about Lee Ho-seong's past and only wanted to be with him. On March 9th, Lee Ho-seong arranged to meet her at Hannam Bridge. They drank and talked together until late at night. During this time, Lee Ho-seong did not show any signs of distress, and their conversation remained lighthearted. Before parting ways, he gave her 40 million won and advised her to live well in the future. He then called a taxi to take her home. Based on these clues, the police speculated that Lee Ho-seong had been involved with both women simultaneously, possibly for financial gain. However, upon seeing the news and realizing that he was wanted by the police, he understood that he couldn't escape the law. Coupled with his substantial debts, he saw no way out. Therefore, Lee Ho-seong arranged to meet Ms. Cha and gave her a portion of the money he had taken from Kim Yeon-suk. After that, he jumped into the Han River. After the incident, Lee Ho-seong's younger brother came forward to the police, stating that his brother had given him 60 million won before his death. Of that, 50 million won was intended for his sister-in-law, and the remaining 10 million won was meant for him. At the same time, Lee Ho-seong also left behind 2 farewell letters. After examining the handwriting, the police confirmed that the writing in the letters matched that of Lee Ho-seong. In one letter, he wrote, "I'm sorry to my mother, brother, wife, and son. Please take good care of my son." The other letter was addressed to an old friend who is now the president of the Gwangju Baseball Association. In it, he wrote, "Congratulations on becoming the president of the Baseball Association. The past days have been truly happy. I will go to heaven first." Judging by the content of the 2 letters, it seems that Lee Ho-seong had mentally prepared for a journey from which he would never return. However, aside from expressing regret to his family and congratulating his friend, he didn't mention anything related to Kim Yeon-suk. His brother went on to tell the police that after the horse racing project failed, Lee Ho-seong cut off all contact with the family. No one knew about his situation until they saw the news on TV and realized something serious had happened. After thinking it over, he decided to hand over the letters his brother had left behind to the police. At this point, the investigation still hadn't uncovered the whereabouts of the 4 missing people, and the remaining 70 million won from the 170 million won was also unaccounted for. With the main suspect, Lee Ho-seong, now deceased, the investigation faced even greater challenges. However, that very evening, a man named Bak from Hwasun County in South Jeolla Province voluntarily approached the police with a crucial lead. He stated that on the morning of February 19th between 9 and 11 a.m., he received a call from an unknown man. This man asked him to dig a hole at a cemetery in eastern Hwasun and offered to pay him double the usual rate. That day, they arranged to meet at the market in Hwasun County to discuss the details of the plan. When they met, the man, who went by the name Lee, said that his father had passed away and was buried in that cemetery. He explained that he wanted to honor his father by erecting a tombstone, which required digging a hole. Mr. Bak didn't think much of it. Since the man was offering double the usual pay, he agreed to the job. Per the request, Mr. Bak was asked to dig a hole that was 2 meters long, 1 meter wide, and 1.5 meters deep. After agreeing to the terms, the man named Lee bought the necessary tools at the market and then called a separate taxi for Mr. Bak to take to the cemetery. Meanwhile, Lee drove his own white car. Mr. Bak mentioned to the police that he found it quite strange at the time because Lee clearly had his own car but still called a taxi for him. Lee wouldn't even let him get close to the car, claiming there was too much luggage, leaving no room to sit. But in reality, there wasn't as much luggage as Lee had suggested. Mr. Bak noticed only a few black suitcases on the back seat, while the passenger seat was empty. When he tried to look inside the car through the window, Lee immediately shot him a menacing look. In the end, Mr. Back reluctantly got into the taxi. When they arrived at the cemetery, it took Mr. Back nearly 2 hours to dig the hole as requested by Lee. Lee paid him as agreed, and after finishing the job, Mr. Back went straight home, unaware of what happened afterward. It wasn't until he saw the news on TV that he realized the man he had met could have been Lee Ho-seong. Based on the information Mr. Back provided, the white car that Lee Ho-seong was driving was indeed Kim Yeon-suk's car. The police believed that Lee had lied to Mr. Back about erecting a tombstone for his father and was actually trying to bury the bodies of Kim Yeon-suk and her 3 daughters. To verify this theory, they extracted surveillance footage from the route between Mapo District and Hwasun County. Surveillance footage showed that at 4:10 a.m. on February 19th, Lee Ho-seong drove out of Mapo District. At 7:19 a.m., the highway surveillance cameras on the road to Hwasun captured the white car. By noon, the camera at the Hwasun highway exit recorded Lee Ho-seong driving away. By that time, he likely had already buried the bodies of Kim Yeon-suk and her 3 daughters. On March 10th, guided by Mr. Back, the police arrived at the Eastern Cemetery in Hwasun County. The previously dug hole had been filled in, and a thick layer of fallen leaves covered the top, making it difficult to detect. The location was between the road and the base of a mountain, at a lower elevation than the road, so without Mr. Back's precise knowledge of the area, the police would not have found it. After some digging, 4 black suitcases appeared before the officers. Upon opening them, they found that each suitcase contained a body. All of them were curled up and wrapped in plastic bags. Since decomposition was minimal, the police could immediately identify them as Kim Yeon-suk and her 3 daughters. Except for the oldest daughter, who was dressed in outdoor clothes, the other 3 were wearing pajamas and no shoes. The forensic report indicates that the eldest daughter sustained severe head injuries, had multiple wounds on her body, and showed signs of struggle before her death. The cause of death was head trauma, resulting in brain hemorrhage. Kim Yeon-suk, along with the second and youngest daughters, all showed signs of asphyxiation due to pressure applied to the neck area. The time of death for all 4 was estimated to be between 10 p.m. on February 18th and 3 a.m. on February 19th. Based on the clues they gathered, the police attempted to reconstruct the events of that night as follows. On the night of February 18th, Lee Ho-seong took advantage of the fact that Kim Yeon-suk, her second daughter, and her youngest daughter were fast asleep and strangled them to death. He then used Kim Yeon-suk's phone to call the eldest daughter and lured her home. Unaware of any danger, the eldest daughter hurriedly left school and returned home, only to be ambushed and attacked by Lee Ho-seong. This also explains why the eldest daughter was the only one not dressed in sleepwear. To cover up his crime, Lee Ho-seong spilled ink on the bed mattress and left the computer in the bedroom on, attempting to create the illusion that someone was still living in the house. His goal was to delay the discovery of the crime. After completing these actions, Lee Ho-seong fell into a state of fear and anxiety. When he saw the news report by SBS, his mental defenses completely crumbled. So, he wrote a farewell letter, arranged to meet his lover Ms. Cha, and divided the money with her, then finally went to the Han River to carry out the plan he had already devised. However, just as the police were preparing to close the case, an unexpected twist emerged. Ms. Cha unexpectedly approached the police and insisted that Lee Ho-seong could never have killed multiple people for 170 million won. While he did have financial difficulties, he was not desperate enough to commit murder for such a small amount of money. She believed that the case was not as the police had assumed and that there must be another underlying cause. After hearing this, the police found her argument reasonable. When Lee Ho-seong was found, his facial expression was quite distorted. Moreover, the remaining money had still not been located. These suspicious details added more complexity to the case. After careful consideration, the police decided to continue their investigation. They once again interviewed residents living near Kim Yeon-suk's home. One resident mentioned that around 6:18 p.m. on February 20th, they saw a man driving a white car into the underground parking lot of the Kim Ho apartment complex. The car looked very similar to Kim Yeon-suk's, as she often drove it to work, so they had a strong impression of the vehicle. After reviewing the surveillance footage from the underground parking lot on February 20th, the police indeed discovered a man driving Kim Yeon-suk's car. However, the camera did not capture the front of the man, so the police couldn't clearly see his face. The car appeared there twice, once on February 18th and again on February 20th. This raised suspicions. Initially, the police thought the person was Lee Ho-seong, but after comparing the footage with the images from the elevator, they noticed that the two men didn't seem to be the same person. Lee Ho-seong, as seen in the elevator, had a larger build, while the man in the parking lot appeared slimmer. Additionally, their walking styles were different. This new discovery left the police stunned. It suggested that their previous conclusions might be overturned. Could it be that Lee Ho-seong had an accomplice? The police rewatched the elevator footage repeatedly and realized that on February 18th, only 6 minutes passed between the time Lee Ho-seong left the elevator on the ground floor and when he returned to the elevator on the ground floor. This timeline seemed unrealistic. Even though Lee Ho-seong was a former athlete with a strong build, it was unlikely that he could have murdered 3 people in just 6 minutes. Unless he only came to the apartment to help dispose of the bodies, and the actual killer might have been someone else. Another suspicious detail was the discovery in the grave at the cemetery. Besides the bodies of the 4 victims, several large rocks were found on top of them. These rocks were very large, each weighing more than 80 kilograms. Although Lee Ho-seong was physically strong, moving these rocks by himself would have been very difficult. This suggests that someone else might have been involved. However, all of this was merely speculation by the police. At the scene, they didn't find any other suspicious fingerprints besides those of Lee Ho-seong. The investigation hit another dead end. Without concrete evidence, the police couldn't determine if there were any other suspects involved besides Lee Ho-seong. On March 13th, the family held a funeral for Kim Yeon-suk and her 3 daughters. Many people attended the ceremony to pay their respects and mourn the loss of the deceased. Everyone hoped that the police would soon uncover the truth and bring justice to the victims. During the subsequent investigation, the police discovered 2 additional cases linked to Lee Ho-seong. One of these cases involved Kim Yeon-suk's husband. He had suffered from depression, which was initially managed with medication, and his condition was relatively stable. However, for reasons unknown, his condition suddenly worsened. And a year before Kim Yeon-suk was murdered, her husband died in a hotel in Yongsan district. At that time, Kim Yeon-suk was dating Lee Ho-seong. The police suspected that Lee Ho-seong may have exerted psychological pressure on the victim, or that he and Kim Yeon-suk had conspired to kill him. The other case occurred 3 years before Kim Yeon-suk's murder. At that time, Lee Ho-seong was in a business partnership with a man named Cho. Mr. Cho was a member of a gang in Gwangju, had considerable influence in the area, and was known for having complex social connections. During one of Mr. Cho's business negotiations, he mysteriously disappeared. When his family couldn't reach him, they reported him missing to the police. Despite extensive investigations, the police were unable to trace Mr. Cho's movements on the day of his disappearance. At the time, Lee Ho-seong was questioned by the police as a business associate. He claimed that he had met with Mr. Cho at 9 p.m. that night, and the two had talked in a car for about 10 minutes before parting ways. After that, he said he had no knowledge of Mr. Cho's whereabouts. Due to Mr. Cho's complicated personal life, the investigation stalled, and his disappearance remained an unsolved mystery. The police suspected that Lee Ho-seong was connected to these 2 cases. Furthermore, the case of Kim Yeon-suk and her 3 daughters has yet to see any progress, making it an unresolved mystery. All of these incidents are intricately linked to Lee Ho-seong. However, with the death of Lee Ho-seong, the truth may never be fully uncovered. The murder of Kim Yeon-suk and her daughters remains shrouded in mystery, and the death of the prime suspect, Lee Ho-seong, has made it difficult to ascertain the whole truth. Could there be another mastermind involved? Where did the remaining 70 million won go? And was Lee Ho-seong involved in those earlier mysterious cases? While many questions remain unanswered, this case serves as a sobering reminder of the hidden dangers in modern society. We may know someone for their fame and talent, but behind the spotlight, their true nature might be entirely different. It's a cautionary tale about not placing blind trust in someone simply because of their status or popularity. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any more mysterious cases. See you in the next video.